Hey everybody, this is Vince Miller. Thank you so much for joining me for this devotional. Today we are in 1 Timothy chapter 1. I'm going to read verses 8 and 9 today, but our previous text and devotional, we addressed the fact that Paul is explaining to Timothy that there are some woke believers out there using the religious law for their own advantage and therefore out of the wrong motivation. And because Paul is a religious lawyer, an expert in the law, he's going to explain to Timothy how the law, if these woke believers aren't careful and don't adjust course, could have an adverse effect on them. So here's what he says. He says, now we, Timothy, you and I, we know that the law is good if one uses it lawfully or rightfully. Understanding this, that the law is not laid down for the just, but for the lawless and disobedient, for the ungodly and sinners, for the unholy and the profane. So what Paul does here is that he explains that the law is made for three groups of people. First, to restrain the unlawful and disobedient. Two, to reveal the ungodly and sinful. And third, to rule the unholy and profane. And the problem with these woke believers is that they will be judged by the very law that they're using for their own advantage, because the law is not for the just, it's for the unjust. The law is for those whose motivations and actions are driven by lawlessness. So in our time today, what Paul says here kind of gives me a lot of hope, because you see, even in our culture, where new ideas seem to be gaining ground, I can know this one thing from what Paul says here, that any new ideology that arises against the law of God will eventually be defeated, because woke and broke ideas eventually die and break, and the people who proclaim them ultimately consume themselves. And all we have to do is trust God's law and stay out of the way, because his moral and natural laws cannot be changed. And in the meantime, we need to bring our motivation to him and be led by the Spirit, remain under the law of grace, and then preach this grace to others. So consider this today. Just a question. Where in your life do you need to address sin and embrace God's wonderful law of grace? I love you guys. I pray this blesses you today. Reach out for his grace today. And with that, I'll see you right back here again tomorrow.